welcome you to the Google Design Sprint Chapter Meetup with Brian Mccullough. And I want to hand it over directly to you, Orit and Ram, for introducing us to Brian.
Okay, so hello, everybody. I know that here in Tel Aviv, it was Independence Day, so thanks for coming. I bet you all had your barbecues and all that stuff. So, so this is a nice dessert. So I'm really, really excited because I invited Brian Mccullough, who I'm a fan of for at least 2.5 years. I was introduced to his amazing podcast about 2.5 years ago. And if anybody didn't hear Techmeme Ride Home, you really should, because basically Techmeme Ride Home is a podcast where anyone who does anything that's concerned with product can catch up on the latest tech news in 15, 20 minutes, and every bit of it is juicy and amazing. So I can tell you as a design sprinter, when I'm doing my sprints, I'm riding to work, and on the way I'm listening to this news, and then it really, really like influences the sprint. It really influences the whole process, because I'll be like discovering something new that happened, and then something will pivot in the process because of it. So Brian, you probably don't even know that, but that happens. That's it. So Brian, I really want to give us a little bit of background on Techmeme and what you did before that. You had a wonderful podcast before that. You wrote a book. How did you get into this stuff?
Well, if you go all the way back, I actually, I'm getting notes from my editor right now about today's show. Yes. Which will come out in about an hour. I founded my first web company in 1999 when I was in college. And I did 2 other startups after that in the early 2000s. One of them was one of the first social job sites that did not end up becoming LinkedIn, but was launched the same month as LinkedIn. Obviously, it didn't become LinkedIn, or we'd be talking about something completely differently. I've just been in the industry for 20 years, and I still do some angel investing and do meetups. And as I got older, young people would start to say, well, what was you were around in the .com era. What was that like? And I got asked that question and told enough stories that I realized that if you stick around long enough, the things that you know and remember become history to other people, and it's sort of incumbent on people that have experienced things to pass them down. And so I decided I wanted to write the history of what I call the internet era. So basically the mid-90s through the book ended with the launch of the iPhone, so roughly 94 to 2007. But as I'm researching and interviewing people, reaching out to people that I knew over the years, I'm recording these great interviews, and I'm realizing that, I talked to this person and they shared an hour and a half of great stories, and maybe a sentence of it will make it into the book. So why not share this with other people? So I started to just put up interviews that I was doing for the book as podcasts, and that was the Internet History Podcast. I started that, 7 years ago now, and there's over 200 episodes of that. And, I've interviewed everyone from the inventor of the MP3 to, early Netscape engineers, early Facebook employees, you name it. I've talked to various people about it. The book that came out of that is called How the Internet Happened, which it's always unclear to me if people can get it, because we only sold the rights to North America, China, Japan, and Saudi Arabia, I believe. So I don't know. Depending where you are.
You mentioned a little bit about University of Illinois in Champaign, and that was
right.
that was my first degree, and I remember the building, the internet building. So it was like an upside down pyramid. It was amazing.
So that's where Mark Andreessen and all of the boys I can't remember what that team was called, coded up the Mosaic web browser, which became the Netscape Navigator web browser, the Netscape. It's funny, just on today's show, if you listen to today's show, Coinbase went public yesterday, and people keep saying that this is the Netscape moment for crypto. And I find that interesting. You know, the idea being that the Netscape IPO was so successful that it validated the internet space for people to invest in, for Wall Street to take seriously. Is it doing something similar for crypto now? But the thing that I looked it up to do the show today, when Netscape went public and wowed, blew everybody's socks off after their first day of trading, they had a $3 billion market cap. And after yesterday, Coinbase had an $85 billion market cap. So, you know, different eras have different scales and things like that. Let me wrap up my intro.
No, that's also so.
Yes. So to get from, I write a book about the history of the internet. I accidentally get into podcasting to do it. Techmeme, if you're not aware, is this site that has been going for about 15 years now. That it's a news aggregator. You can go to techmeme.com any hour of the day, and you have updated headlines of everything that's happening in tech. I've known the founder, Gabe Rivera, for years. And long story short, Gabe, do you ever want to do a podcast for Techmeme? That might be useful. And we realized that the only way that it would make sense is to do what Techmeme is good at, which is it has to be a daily. It has to catch you up on what you missed. And so we settled on this format of it's a 15-minute sort of news rundown show, and it's sort of aggregating. Like, so, you know, usually I do 5 to 7 segments of whatever has been at the top of Techmeme that day. But what I do is, you know, I read from some of the stories that are quoted from, I read people's tweets or whatever. The idea is if you listen to the show every day in 15 to 20 minutes, you can find out, as I say every day, what happened in the world of tech. And also not just reading the headlines, because, you know, a robot could do that, but the context around it and the conversation and the chatter, sort of to keep you on the pulse of the tech industry. So we've been doing that now for 3 years and almost 900 episodes, and that's what I do every day.
I wonder how many.
I just like I'm going here. I was thinking about it. We're gonna talk about the creators that I was thinking about your daily commitment every morning. I listen. How do you do that? Like every morning, go do that, and don't you like? Oh, today I just don't want to do this.
I mean, like any other job that can happen, certainly. So there's a couple things that I would say about that. Number one, I am standing on the shoulders of Techmeme. Techmeme has editors that are behind the scenes. You know, it's automated software so that they have a back end console where the proprietary stuff that surfaces the news in terms of what's getting the most tweets, what's getting the most conversation, what's getting the most links, surfaces that. But then there's a team of actual human editors that not only curate the headlines but also decide. And I wish I could. We should charge for people to watch the Slack channels all day long, where editors are literally arguing over that's not important, this is what's most important, or whatever. So I have to stress that I have access to that. I'm standing on their shoulders of, and again, there's editors all around the world. It's a 24/7 operation. So when I wake up every morning, I have not only the page to go to see what I missed again, but I have the back end to see what they're debating. And I can also see what is coming down the pike. Not everybody, but quite a few of the companies are friendly with us to the degree that they will give us heads up about news that might be coming down the pike. We get a lot of embargoes and things like that. So very often I know what's going to happen in a day, you know, so I can sort of plan and prepare that sort of stuff. In terms of
this year was kind of surprising days. You're like, wow,
sure.
I can talk about this, but so what were some things this year that happened in the news that?
Well, I mean,
that kind of caught you by surprise.
It is funny. I can remember a year ago very clearly starting to do stories popping up about, you know, there's factories being shut down in China because of this, you know, mystery disease. And then the stories started to be, is this going to impact, you know, iPhone shipments and things like that? But then when the lockdowns in Wuhan especially started, especially in Silicon Valley, specifically in California, a lot of the tech people there were very, very early. I can remember a friend of mine had been visiting the Andreessen Horowitz's offices And he sent me a picture of the sign on the door where they basically early on were telling anyone that was coming in to wear a mask. And then I think soon after that, they stopped doing in-person meetings and things like that. So yeah, the whole coronavirus, COVID-19 moment, you know, there was a period of time where VCs that I was talking to, people were thinking that it was sort of like the housing crisis all over again. There were some famous memos that were written 15 years ago that were like, you know, hunker down, you know, prepare to ride out the storm. We don't know how long the storm is going to last. So I would say exactly a year ago now, like April-ish of last year, I'm friendly with a lot of venture capitalists and founders of smaller startups. And there was a lot of thinking of like, well, we don't know when we'll be able to raise a round again. We don't know if we're going to have to lay off people. And certainly there were tons and tons of startups, especially in, you know, travel and transportation related startups that laid a lot of people off. But then I guess also the surprising thing is how quickly by the summer things were kind of, and please don't take this in the spirit it's intended. Obviously it's a tragedy. You know, millions of people have lost their lives. So I hope you won't think I'm being light about this. But it was also, I think, intuitive or counterintuitive and shocking to me how quickly, at least for tech, at least for the startup and venture side of things, everything was just back to normal. And then we've seen through the second half of last year that I think it ended up being that 2020 ended up breaking the record for, you know, venture investment in terms of dollar figures invested and things like that. So it was such a roller coaster year, from going down that precipice of being like, uh-oh, is this, you know, going to crash the entire global economy? If you're a startup, well, you'll never be able to raise money again. Is your company in trouble? To now, you know, and Coinbase was one of the most successful IPOs of all time yesterday. And, you know, no one would have thought that would even be possible, I think, a year ago. So, yeah.
So, okay, so let's get into, actually, like, I would love to hear more highlights from this year, but I think that, like, what we want to first cover are some of the trends that you think that bubble up in your head as being super important to, like, people who are working on products, whether they're product designers, product managers, developers. Like, what trends would you bubble up and say, okay, like, this is seriously gonna disrupt the way you work or your job, or development?
Let me stress that I've never been a developer. You know, my technical nous doesn't go much beyond HTML and, you know, CSS basically. But also because of my background, you know, being a 4-time founder now, my lens into it is these are the trends that, you know, startup energy and money is going to. So I can give you what I'm seeing in terms of that, in the sense that will help you have an understanding of where I think the energy is going and where I think a lot of the money and stuff is going to go. You know, the first thing off the top of my head is everything is SaaS now. And we always, I think even a year, 2 years ago, we thought that was a limited sort of, you know, you can help companies streamline their payroll, or you can do. I would say, especially the last half of last year, the startup energy, the ecosystem has been, you can basically create a SaaS product for anything conceivable. Because essentially, if you think of what software as a service really does, is it just streamlines operations, and operations in anything, whether you're running, you know, a bar or a restaurant, or, you know, you're trying to do HR for, you know, tens of thousands of employees or things like that. So the point I want to make is that, number one, it seems to be that the market for SaaS is infinite, because you can create a software product that can streamline and make things more efficient for just about any process. To the degree that in the last couple of months, there have been several startups that have started that are SaaS for SaaS. So if you're a company that is suddenly subscribed to 40 different SaaS products, there are now SaaS platforms that just help you manage all of that. And not only manage your subscriptions, but, like, you know, do it in a dashboard where it's like plug in all of your, like, things like what Zapier does, where it's like you plug in all these different inputs. Yeah. So that's number one, is that, and for developers, I think that, obviously that's great for y'all, because if this market is potentially infinite, then there's potentially always going to be opportunities and things that, that you can plug into. And if you want to start up a new idea, potentially anything, SaaS for, I don't know, lawn mowing company. Actually, that's not silly at all. Like that makes a ton of sense. But if you want to jump in right now, please do. But otherwise,
I just say it's maybe good for job, but maybe you can SaaS people. Like
I mean, there is that degree that if you look at it from the flip side of it, is SaaS, when we talk about the robots coming for everyone's jobs, is that what we're talking about? Where essentially software eating the world means that we're sort of slicing up and making more efficient and sort of making redundant all of these jobs that used to handle things like this. If eventually there's a software platform that does everything you need to do for HR or benefits, I mean, that's what, 20-30% of the headcount at certain companies and things like that. And that, that could essentially make actual human jobs redundant. So that's a possibility. I don't know. But again, we still need people to create the software to make people redundant, except trend number two that I've seen a lot of is this low code, no code stuff. And this is not, I don't think we're anywhere close to, like, there are some people that are maximalist about this where, well, eventually this is going to mean that we won't need developers and designers and things like that. But we are I'd say we're generations away from that.
Yeah, I want to go back. That chapter you were trying to GTP3 your podcast. Remember that? Yeah. I also played with that, and like it gave me the sense of like my first programming experience was Sinclair ZX81, where you had can try a little, and then and it completed your thing. And it's the same. It does so many unexpected things, and it's like it's an experience of programming something. It's like trying to make it work for you. So I wonder, like you're saying, this is so far away from us.
I think I want to just recap to everybody. I'm not sure everyone knows what that is.
Oh, let me do it. So first of all,
I don't know.
Before it's an inside conversation. So okay,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes. So we'll come back to GPT-3 in a second, but the tool that I was using, it's this tool called Decrypt, which is it's a startup founded by Andrew Mason, who founded Groupon. And essentially what it allows you to do is you train your voice into the system. Like I read like 3 hours of The Wizard of Oz into it. And then in essence, what I should be able to do is then type into like a word processing like document, and it speak in my voice. So it's like the reverse of sort of text to speak. It's like, but it's like, so it would do it in your voice. And as you were saying, like we tried it out, and it was surprising how good it was. It's just not, I would say the uncanny valley is still 50% there. But I mean, that's the fact that we've gotten 50% of the way there is showing how close we're coming. People joked to me, they're like, well, if this ever actually works out, that's going to put you out of a job because we won't need you to perform the show every day. And actually, I would love it because, the actual recording and editing of my audio every day is the largest part of my day. So if I could sit down in front of like a word processing document, write out what I want to say, and then just hit a button and have it be said, then that's fun. That would actually be great for me. This is all, I don't think that Decrypt is using GPT-3, but GPT-3 is sort of this new software that was developed by the OpenAI, I think, Institute. And it's sort of, is it a neural network? I can't remember what flavor of AI it is. But the idea is that it is getting so good. I think the term I used one time on the podcast is it's software that's designed to beat the Turing test, just in that simple definition of the Turing test, which is you don't know that you're talking to a computer. The computer fools you into thinking that you're talking to a real human. And it's good. People have used it to create entire blog posts and write articles that like a human did not do anything but like say, I want you, GPT-3, to write an article about the Coinbase going public yesterday, fed it a whole bunch of documents, and then GPT-3 spits out back, say, a 700-word article. And then in theory, it could do the same thing if you hook that up to Decrypt and a voice or whatever. So yeah, there's an example of, but Bloomberg already does things like that. A lot of the financial writing that you read from Bloomberg and places like that are about, like this stock went up this percentage today, went down that percent. That's already being created by bots. It's just that those are very constrained.
They always sounded like bots, though.
Yeah. I guess the point of GPT-3 is that it's getting better at creating not just if we can think of AI to this point is just good at spitting back facts. Now this is spitting back nuance and potentially opinion. Somebody used it to fool people. They created a bot online that acted as a not a guidance counselor, but like a therapist or a counselor offering relationship advice, right? And so people thought that they were typing in to someone that was answering relationship advice on the other side. And they revealed days later that no, the entire time this was GPT-3 talking back to people. And to what degree or another, a certain percentage of people were fooled, and the answers were good enough to fool them, is what GPT-3 is. Look it up. It's kind of fascinating stuff.
Yeah. So
I can already say that, like, in the past year, we've had to dabble in that when we were going and creating experiences for design sprints and stuff. And we've had to take that into consideration in the design process, not even in the development process.
Yeah, I think also it's like you go back to the code, no code. It's also a type of a no code. So if you think about this, it's like we actually program something to do something by telling him what we do. It's like in GTP3, just say, write this text, this paragraph at the style of Brian Mccullough. And it'll go back and it'll imitate your like writing.
And I've seen people use it to code things so that in theory you could say, I want you to create a UI that mimics the UI that has been so successful for Slack, for example, right? And then it just looks at the Slack code and then it does its own thing in a similar vein. I've seen people experiment with stuff like that. Obviously, again, this is beyond my ken, but to me, the thing about low code, no code, as it's being used right now, at least in the startups that I've talked to and read about and reported on the show, is that, again, everyone always uses the analogy of the Excel spreadsheet and how even normal non-technical folks are pretty sophisticated at using Excel to do what is essentially programming, right? And so the way it's being used right now is for these low-level, again, sort of processes and making things more efficient, that you might 10 years ago have been like, well, we've got to hire a couple of developers to create out a whole network. Like these plug and play items, these low code, no code things like Zapier. Is it Zapier or Zapier? I can never remember. Will allow Zapier. Okay. Right. Listen, I've done ads for them and they've said it in the ad copy, like, here's how you pronounce it. And I still can't remember. I think that a lot of what that low code, no code is right now is just, again, if you take the analogy further, it's like, all right, allowing a mid-level administrator in whatever company the ability to program a task that they need to do with the same level of like base level sophistication that they would program, an Excel spreadsheet cell or something like that. I don't know to what degree. This is where I say that I doubt that we're in our lifetimes or in our careers to the point where that sort of abstracts out all developers, right? Where you say, I need a process, I need a back end for a cryptocurrency marketplace, hit a button and the bots all do it for you. Like that to me, I would think would be generations away.
Yeah. But I'm going back, like, I also think that maybe people don't want that. Like, for me, the fact that there is like a Brian Mccullough behind the podcast and listening is something that's the value. Because you said most of the things I actually can go read, but it's like that's the value. There's somebody there who has like a human opinion.
I think it's related to also this question that we got here by Ahmad, which is what are some of the benefits of it? So it's like so basically we can do more stuff, but on the bottom end, it's somebody telling that thing, do this, and that somebody is important.
Yeah, so maybe the way to think of it is when I say it's generations away, it is sort of like what's the job that would be the analogy? You still need the humans as the conductor. You know, if in the future what it means to be a software developer is you're the conductor of a symphony and there's however many performers in a symphony and you're the one that are getting these 60 people to play in the way that you want, then what it would mean to be a software developer in the future is to, sort of like Maestro, all right, now this bot does that, this bot does that. Like you still would need the orchestrator. That maybe is where software development is going in a low code, no code world. But I mean, also the benefits of it are, I think, for developers is that where it's abstracting out a lot of the sort of things that get in the weeds and take up all of your time in the same way that now we're used to, okay, someone hires you to do a project and there are all these things, these open source things that you just pull off the shelf and you say, all right, I'm going to plug this in here. I'm going to plug this in there. And that I think that all of software is sort of going in that direction if you believe this low code, no code sort of ethos.
Like from your perspective, like Built for the Future by Jason Pfeiffer, and he's always like this theme that whatever was is like he's looking optimistically at all these trends and saying, well, it's
a podcast. So.
Yeah, it's a podcast, Built for the Future. He used to be like Pessimist Archive or something like that. And he's always for the entrepreneur. And he's like always saying
just what always said here.
Yeah, let me just finish. Okay, so what's your view? Like, are you looking at all this like AI trend and no code, low code as an optimistic view of the future, or like as this thing of going on?
Ask me on a different day and I'll give you a different answer. I'm generally an optimist. Like I think I've said on the show before that, because people sometimes ask me like, what are your priors? What are your prejudices? Even to the level of like, sometimes people be like, oh, you're in the bag for Apple. You always, and anytime someone says something like that to whatever, or like the crypto people think that I'm not as into crypto as I should be or whatever. My answer to everyone is always that I love tech. Tech has given me my entire career and everything. I just want it to be better. So I that's my way of saying I'm sort of like a curmudgeonly optimist, which is I love tech so much that I always think it can be better. I always want it to improve. Now, to what degree does that make me say that, oh, I don't like the direction things are going or whatever? I don't know. But I just always think I'm the optimist in the sense that I always think that tech is going to make the world better. And so then I get angry when it's not. So say that when things are new, you always think, well, this is going to take over and this is going to ruin everything. And in the long arc of history, it never ends up being 100% one way or the other, right? On some level, it always reverts to the mean or comes to some sort of in-between stage, so that, a lot of these things you think they're going to take over all of life, and things like social media is having such an impact on our societies and our politics and our culture. But but it'll settle down because generally over time we'll learn how to integrate it into our lives. We'll learn what works and what doesn't. So I don't think that it would ever be that, like, say, AI takes over everything. I think that there will be hundreds of years where AI and humans will work symbiotically. Now, listen, I've read the Nick Bostrom books and seen the Elon Musk interviews where it's like, one day we're going to have the singularity and the computers just won't need us anymore. I suppose that's a possibility too, but I don't know. I guess I'm not. I guess I am an optimist because I can't allow myself to be that, apocalyptic, I guess.
I think we should read some of the comments here. Can't see it. Can you see that? It's kind of like
how developers who manage cloud infrastructure use to manage physical server. Yeah,
right. I think that's my
the orchestrating we were talking earlier.
Right.
And then Ahmed said, would this create more opportunities? I guess that's your claim, is that it's always gonna. I
think so. And again, like, look, industrialization. When industrialization happens, you think that no, that's not the right historical analogy. That
I think it is, though, because it's like
any new evolution tends to create new jobs, right? Because we've always thought, in the States 150 years ago, 90% of the workforce was agricultural. Now that's less than 3%, but it's not like we have 97% unemployment. When factories left Cleveland and Detroit and whatever, like, yes, there was great and terrible disruption, but people found other jobs, and the U.S. moved from, in the middle of the 20th century, essentially a 70% industrial economy to now a 70% services economy. So I don't know, every new evolution creative destruction destroys jobs. That's what creative destruction means, but it also creates new jobs, and you just hope that it continues, that it kind of creates them in equal numbers.
Yeah, it's like whenever you sell something, like you solve a problem, you create new problems. So there are new sales opportunity there.
Right.
Yeah. That segues actually the opportunities that maybe we can talk about the creator economy, which is a huge thing. And
another one.
So, go ahead. Ask your question, but
No, so just maybe you can tell a little about like what happened this year, about
what it is. I don't think everyone knows. So.
Certainly.
Okay.
Well,
it is, and so
what is the creator economy? That is that's hard to answer because it's one of those answers where it's like it's everything, and it's not one thing, but it is everything from. I'm technically a part of the creator economy. I create my own show and post it every day, and I make my living as a creator from advertisements. We have a subscription product or whatever. When people talk about the creator economy, and we're going to come back to this because I think this is where developers especially can benefit from this. But think of me as a creator. If you could create a software platform for me to manage the ads and manage the invoicing and manage the subscription, a certain percentage of the listeners pay for the subscription product. We've got different things like there. So I would say that the hottest thing right now, the venture capitalists that I'm friendly with, is the creator space, and people like Lee Jin, who left Andreessen Horowitz to start her own fund specifically. She calls it the passion economy. So the idea is whether you're some video gamer who does Twitch streaming, or you're a someone that sells things on Etsy, that you're a YouTube creator, you're a whatever. It's all of us creating content, and she would say that it's our passion. So again, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but it could be gardening. Like you could become a gardening influencer or something like that. All that's changed is that, number one, a decade ago, there was basically YouTube. and a couple other platforms that allowed people to be creators and make content. And now there's a plethora of them. And now when you have new social platforms launch, like a Clubhouse, they launch with the idea of monetizing for creators first. TikTok, exploded over the last 3 years. And the old way of doing it is that, a platform would get to scale, as they say, and have billions of users, and then one day worry about monetizing, and they would monetize by just throwing ads against it, And now what has changed is that you see Twitter doing this with micropayments. You see, Spotify doing this with podcasts. It's all about allowing individual creators, individual artists in some cases, but whatever, individual people to make money with what they're passionate about. Another hot thing right now is Substack, which is just newsletters, and it's creating.
I'm subscribing to it. It's
fans only
experience.
OnlyFans, right?
OnlyFans,
which is largely people in the adult industry, as they used to mystically say here in the States. But think about it. And in fact, I've done several segments on OnlyFans on the show, because if you look at the raw numbers, OnlyFans is making people a ton of money. And if you're someone who, if let's say that you're an adult industry worker who for years has been working in that industry for studios that exploit you for a couple $100 for a video here and a video there, versus you create an OnlyFans account, and if you're willing, instead of giving your nude scenes to this studio over here that repackages and sells it, you sell it directly to your fans who pay you a subscription. A lot of the things behind all of these things, including SAAS, is this move towards recurring revenue and subscription models for things like that. OnlyFans is the quintessential. It's like, I'm a fan of you, I will pay you for your content. It's purely that. So when we talk about the creator economy, imagine that, but for anything that you can imagine, anything you can dream up. And this is where, to bring it full circle, this is where I think, this is an opportunity for developers, because like I said at the beginning, what I need, if the creator economy is a new gold rush, we need the picks and shovels. They always say that the surest way to get rich in a gold rush is to provide the picks and shovels for everyone out there that's going out to try to find the gold. And so in a similar way where we said you can create a SaaS platform for almost anything, we need platforms and services and tools that will enable this creation to this flowering of creation to continue. And that could be creating the next platform, the next TikTok, the next Substack, or what have you. Or it could be just creating the tools that allow people on these other platforms to monetize and organize and be more efficient.
Yeah. So Prashant actually says, I hope I pronounce your name right, but so would you say the creator economy would increase, say, in the next 5 years and be sustainable? Or is it a bubble? So I guess you think it's going to be very sustainable, or you think it's like something?
Well, first of all, anything can be a bubble, but it kind of doesn't matter if you're early on in the bubble. And I think we're at the very early stages of this creator economy. So, social media has been a bubble for 15 years now.
It's not a bubble.
Yeah. So I think it's early days. So there's plenty of opportunities to get in on the ground floor if we're all right about this. But number two, I think that a very, very fundamental thing that has happened is that, and this will sound really, really dumb when I say it out loud, but I think it's profound. All that's changed is people are willing to pay for the internet for the first time. Mark Andreessen said recently that there were 3 stages of the internet. In stage 1, no one was willing to pay for anything. And in fact, there was debates about whether e-commerce would ever take off because you couldn't convince people to put their credit cards online. Stage 2 was people were still not willing to pay for everything, but advertisers were willing to subsidize everything. And now we're in stage 3 where people are willing to pay for things, whether that is $5 a month for a Substack, for a podcast subscription, $30 a month for exclusive nudes from your favorite OnlyFans star or something like that. But even on the level of Twitter is experimenting with tipping for tweets and micro payments and things like that. There are people in the crypto world that think that the reason that the creator economy is possible now is because cryptocurrencies will allow these sorts of things. What are we seeing with NFTs right now? But we're just enabling a way to create value, to reward value, to pay for certain digital assets and things like that. So and I think that that's what Jack is going to do with Twitter. He's going to integrate it with Square. Square does all of the cryptocurrency trading on its platform. So you could see a scenario where, musical artists can monetize on Spotify or some other platform and get paid or sell their songs as NFTs. What if every song you release as a hip hop artist in the future was released as an NFT? Where people are not just buying, they're buying a certain level of ownership, and then also it's on the chain, so that if it's resold or every time it's played, you get a certain percentage, or a shekel here and a shekel there. I can see all of these things sort of enmeshing. So, long way of saying it probably is a bubble, but don't worry about that. And then also, I think that it's also a fundamental paradigm shift where it could create a lot of different bubbles, and it could be the way that the internet operates in, at large going forward.
Someone said that there's an echo in the background. Does everyone hear this?
Yes, I just wanted to say that as well. I didn't want to interrupt you, Brian. You need to mute yourself when Brian is talking. Because
I didn't know that. Okay, sorry. It's a new platform for me. So
here, down there.
Okay. Okay. Someone asked,
where are your views on NFTs and educational?
I wanted to ask that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is funny. Having just said that, NFTs, I wrote a whole book about the .com bubble, so I feel like bubbles are sort of something that's a specialty of mine. NFTs very much smell like a bubble to me. But again, that to what degree that matters or not, people thought that the .com bubble bursting meant that the internet was a fad that was over. And meanwhile, 2 years later, Mark Zuckerberg codes up Facebook, and, Amazon was a $5 stock in 2003 because the bubble had burst and people thought they were going to go out of business. And now it's $1,600 stock or whatever. I think NFTs are a bubble right now. And in the same way that crypto has gone through several boom and bust cycles, I think it's inevitable that sometime this year, probably you're going to see some sort of NFT crash. But that doesn't mean that a bubble doesn't mean a thing dies. A bubble just means that there's an intense amount of excitement, and some people lose their shirts, some projects go away, but other things rise through the ashes. And I've pointed out on the show that if you're in the crypto space, there was the last time Bitcoin went up to 20,000 was 3 years ago or so, and that was a big bubble time, and that was the time of all the altcoins, where especially on the Ethereum blockchain, they were creating all these different projects and coins, and coins no one had ever heard of. The pejorative term was shit coins. We're going through the roof, and then went back down to nothing. Out of those ashes, though, is where NFTs came from. So the things that are being successful, like Dapper Labs and NBA Top Shots now in the NFT space, were projects that were born in that sort of crypto spring of those altcoins and those alt projects, that then there was a crash and a lot of things got wiped out. But the things that had actual value and real interesting things behind them have flowered back up. So again, creative destruction and stuff like that. I do think that NFTs are getting ahead of themselves right now. And it's also, I think everyone's just speculating. Now, the reason I might be wrong about that is there does seem to be this sort of fascination with speculation and collectability. Why are people, shoe drops, sneaker drops, shoes that come out and people line up and, for hours and spend thousands of dollars on shoes. Like, that's a real thing. And baseball cards are coming back and these collectibles things. So I don't know, we could be entering a period where collectibles and collectability is a major force. And so NFTs are just part of that. The question about educational certificates, if you're asking a larger question about like higher education and certification and the value of learning and things like that, if you have there would be something interesting there if you have an expounded question about that. I'm curious, are you all familiar with things like Lambda School? I'm sure you're aware of these new sort of coding academy places where it's like you can learn to code in 3 months and things like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of online like these. Maybe you want to elaborate a bit about that.
So the one that I'm the most familiar with is Lambda School, where essentially you sign up for the coursework and the things like that, and there's no tuition up front. You sign away a certain percentage of your essentially your, I don't know if it's lifetime, but like for the next 20 years, some percentage of your salary goes to paying back Lambda School. Now, the trade-off that they say is that it's free up front, and you wouldn't, you'll hopefully come out of Lambda School and jump into a 6-figure career as a developer that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And this is why I'm saying about these educational certificates. The argument that they make is, well, what's the alternative? At least, I don't know in all of the countries of people that are listening, it might be different, but at least here in the States, if you wanted to become a software developer when I was coming up, the only thing to do was to go to college, take out student loans, leave college $100,000 or more in debt, and then you better hope that you have a nice 6-figure job on the other side of that. But then you're spending the next 25 years paying off those student loans. So the argument that these new sorts of schools are making is, number one, you don't need like the old school accreditation of a college or a university. Come to our boot camps, our crash courses. We will train you to be a good software developer, as good as anyone else out there. But you don't have to have a traditional college or university behind you. We can do sort of the skill set that is required to get you that good job. And we're not going to put you in debt up to your eyeballs to do it. So let's get you in and out, and let's get you earning, and let's get you on the road to a successful career faster than the traditional way.
I think, like, regarding the question about the NFT and the educational certificate, is about how we validate like all those online certificates and able to like that's like a creative rights kind of an issue. I think all of this, the NFT concept and the fact that you want to give scarcity to any kind of valuable thing that is digital and can be copied is a real pain. That's not going to go away. That's why I think I agree with you. NFT is not a bubble. It's just a really, really important thing to solve. Maybe it won't be solved as NFT, but it is a big issue.
Right.
And also, go ahead.
An NFT that's just the term that everyone is talking about right now. But what we're really talking about is just the fundamental technology of the blockchain, which is essentially this immutable sort of ledger and record, right? So all an NFT is designed to do is to put proof of provenance and ownership of a digital item, which, as we know, is fundamentally, copyable into infinity. It's trying to create, as you're saying, scarcity, but really what it's doing is it's putting this immutably onto the blockchain that says this exists this way, and it's owned by this person, and it was transacted at this exact time. So even though NFT is the hot term of the moment, all NFTs, all we're really talking about is potentially what blockchain technology is good for, if it's good for something, which is sort of this this radical openness. Everyone has access to all of the information in terms, the ultimate case of a blockchain, especially in the Ethereum sense, because Ethereum is programmable, like the ability to execute a contract without a third party guaranteeing or overseeing anything. Because it's on the blockchain, it can be executed between two parties with no middleman required to verify that things happen. And so, yeah, we're using the term NFT, but I think that what we're seeing is this is just a use case of generally what blockchain can be good for. I'll give you one more example. Here I just got my second jab. Here in New York State, they have a vaccination passport thing, and it is on the blockchain in the sense that like my record of my vaccinations got verified by the state, and then it's on the blockchain. And the reason that they do that is so that when I scan, like let's say I go into a building next month and they say you can't come in unless we scan that you have been vaccinated or whatever, they don't see the information, because it's just pinging the blockchain. And so if someone scans my passport, they just get a green, he's good, red, he's not good. And so that allows my privacy to be protected because my health records are protected. They don't have to know where my vaccine was, how many days ago it was, my name, my age, anything else. All those things are protected. So again, this is just this is the promise of the blockchain, is this ability of things to be verifiable, for transactions to happen, for things to be programmed without there having to be some sort of centrality to it or some sort of middleman or that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's two questions here.
Yeah, I'll read them out. I think bottom line of it's just cut down the middleman. The creator economy, the blockchain is just cut down the middleman. We have from Oli a question: do you believe that tech world will become more of a technician world where people will learn the technology without the science, without the degree in computer science?
No, I think that the arc of history, if you go long enough, bends towards people not having to be technical. That's the point. Is that, I'm old enough to remember when to use a computer, I'm staring at a command line and there's just a blinking cursor, and unless I know what to type in to make the computer do what I want, it's not going to do anything. And so, then you get the graphical user interface, then you've got smartphones that have just little apps that you tap on. Like, I think that on the longest term, things that we think of as technical will all be subsumed under layers of things like the graphical user interface that will just make it intuitive for, before my son could talk, he was doing more with computing than I was at age 20, because he could pick up an iPad and intuitively know what to do with it by tapping, swiping, learning to draw and things like that. So I think that the future is always going to be technical, but no one will know it. It won't seem technical. It won't feel technical. It'll all be sort of GUI'd for us, put behind smiling little icons. So now that gets back to the argument: to what degree do you need a degree in computer science to produce those things? To what degree would you need to be credentialed to be the conductor of the orchestra of making these low code, no code bots do what you want? I don't know. I mean, I guess I do think that there will always be a need for humans to be the creative impulses. Even if you can have AI and things abstract away all of the menial tasks of making the thing happen, you will still need the human to have the spark and the idea and provide the direction and things like that.
Okay, and there's another one.
So here's another one. Do you think there is a future where the creative content is not duplicated or plagiarized?
Plagiarized. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because, I mean, that's what, in theory, NFTs are trying to reach for. But then at the same time, in a digital world, it's zero marginal cost to create anything digital So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the thing that we're figuring out now with this explosion of NFTs and everything crypto.
I think also that you can't create without copying. So anybody create it has like, so plagiarism is like inevitable, especially that you can like try on all these things and you probably copied something even if you're not aware of.
Right. Well, and then Steve Jobs always say, well, it wasn't him. Everyone said this, great artists steal. So, yeah. Yeah.
Probably started before.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, like, if anyone has any more questions, you can post them in the live chats. No? Okay. So what we can do now, let me see. Yeah. Is go into the lounge and we're going to have all these tables and people can mingle and interact. And Brian, I don't know if you have like 10 minutes to mingle with us in the lounge.
I have just about 10, and then I'll need to take off to actually get my show out to people today. So I publish on the. Yeah.
So first of all, I want you to tell everyone where they can hear your wonderful podcast, and where they can find you. So
yeah, it's the Techmeme Ride Home. If anywhere you get podcasts, just do a search for Ride Home or Techmeme. TECHMEME Ride Home. And the reason it's called that is because initially, again, it's supposed to be sort of listened to as you're commuting home. You were busy working all day long. Here's what you missed. Now, if you're in Israel or Germany or whatever, I hear this all the time. You're not my tech ride home. You're my tech while I'm brushing my teeth and taking a shower show. So consume it however you like. But yes.
Ride to work.
Right to work, right.
You're my right to work, like in the morning on Spotify. So
that's exactly. I can tell who's talking to me depending on if it's like I'm taking my kids. You're my take my kids to school podcast. You're my walk the dog after dinner podcast. Yeah.
Sabrina, this is kind of new for me. So I do end session and then we go into the.
One quick question.
Okay, go.
Are you up to another book? I would love that.
I would say not anytime soon. Okay, if you're curious, look up How the Internet Happened is the book. As I say, you might have to pay to import it from the States if you're interested. But it's called How the Internet Happened from Netscape to the iPhone. And it basically covers the first half of the Internet era. And so the question would be, when will part 2 come out from the iPhone to Coinbase?
For example.
Right. Yeah. Someday, maybe. But also, I let a good decade pass after the iPhone launched before my book came out. So you kind of maybe need a little bit of time to pass to know what the history has been. So maybe someday, but not anytime soon.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're going to go into the lounge, people. It's actually kind of fun. There's all these tables, and you can just click on a chair and then, mingle and then look for Brian and look for us and look for Sabrina. So
let's see if it works.
Sabrina's just end session, and we hope this works.
It will work. It will work. And thanks a lot, Brian, for being here, for answering all the questions, and for all your great insights.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.